Back in May, Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton was asked about her relationship with a guy called Sidney Blumenthal. He's a former confidant found advising her following the attacks in Benghazi. Listen.
It's important when you get into politics to have friends you had before you were in politics and to understand what's on their minds. And he's been a friend of mine for a long time. He sent me unsolicited emails, which I passed on in some instances.
This counsel came despite President Obama specifically barring Blumenthal from working in his administration. Last night, the State Department released 3,000 pages of emails from her tenure as Secretary of State, and it turns out Blumenthal's correspondence to Clinton went beyond Libya into optics, for instance. He said, "This speech can't afford to be lackluster. It will then be held up in invidious comparison to Obama's glittering best efforts." Now, to me, Kimberly, that is not an email that you send that is unsolicited.
Right. I mean, she's just...
They're obviously having a conversation.
Here's the deal. So she knew, like, the gig was up, that she was going to be busted because she knew exactly what she was doing with him. So there's always some sort of sidestepping explanation, like shades of truth and then darkness of lies. This is what happens with her. So she's like, knows that she's on the hook with him. So she stop making weird faces at me. So she knows that they're going to say, oh, you were getting some of this from him, weren't you? And she's like, whoa, this was unsolicited. He was just sending this to me. I didn't ask for it. But this shows that, once again, she's not telling the truth.
Do you think there's anything that she said about these emails that is actually going to turn out to be true, aside from the fact that she deleted her server?
Yeah, she's lied about everything. What I find interesting about the emails is you see that there were meetings that were scheduled, and then she would find out that they were canceled. Like, she'd try to find a meeting, and they would be canceled. And then she would ask about a meeting, and they would say, no, that's not important. You realize she's the employee at work when she was at the State Department. She's the employee that you steer important stuff away from. She's, remember, anybody watch Office Space?
Yeah.
She's Milton Wadden, the guy that they marginalized in the broom closet. They're constantly moving stuff away from her because they don't want her involved. They put Biden in charge of Iraq, which is a slap in the face. Also,
well, maybe he should be the VP.
There you go. Blumenthal, by the way, he is her Iago. If she's Othello, he's the Iago. He's the one that's whispering in her ear all the things that she should be doing. And then the media, how are they going to play this? Their strategy is make this a right-wing driven story. Even though it's the Times that keeps breaking it, they're going to make it sound like it exists only in the FNC bubble, and that if anybody else covers this story, they're just idiots, just the way they were idiots about IRS or Benghazi. That's how they're going to win.
Well, and take a look, Eric, at this explanation. So David Axelrod, he was the president's advisor. He was asked about whether or not he knew about Hillary Clinton's private email account and the server. And being former, he's out of it out of the job for about 3 years now. He said, "I didn't know." Listen.
I confess I didn't. I was there. I was the senior advisor. I didn't know that.
So if you did find out when you were there, if you did find out when you were there, would you say, "Hey, whoa, wait a minute, guys, should we all talk about this?" Would you flag it?
I might have asked a few questions about that.
Well, some of Hillary's emails that were released last night were actually from David Axelrod, and he was asked about that earlier today.
Most people in the government had private accounts for private sorts of emails. I've always said that I knew she had that account. What I didn't know was that she used that account exclusively, and I certainly didn't know that she had her own server. Those were things I just learned with everybody else.
It's so upsetting.
You buying that?
So some very important things came out today with these emails. Number one, remember when Hillary Clinton said there was nothing classified in any of the emails? Well, we found out there were 25 emails that were either partially or fully redacted because they contained classified material. Number two, this was very early on. This is the very beginning of the State Department when she first started to go there. So, and then we're going to get, 3,000 or 5,000 every month going forward. We're going to get more and more. So we're going to see how it develops. It's painting a very interesting picture. Greg points out that maybe she wasn't as informed as you would hope your top diplomat would be. But I'm very curious to see how Sidney Blumenthal's role plays out going forward. And number three, this is really disturbing. The same person who was responsible for the Lois Lerner emails that evaporated and got blown or lost after they were subpoenaed by Congress, that same Catherine Duvall is the one who's overseeing this email release or however document dump every month. You have to wonder if she did it before, and if there's any funny business that went on before with Lois Lerner, which a lot of us do, is there going to be the same amount of cover-up or games being played with these emails?
You can imagine, Juan, that the White House is probably not very happy at the moment.
No, because she broke the rules. I mean, and you know, you asked Eric earlier, do you buy this about Axelrod's statement? But Dana, if I sent you an email, I know, oh, Dana has a secret or private email account. Okay. But I don't know who the server is necessarily different.
Correct.
I don't know that. So I mean,
But that really wasn't the question.
Oh, I
that
thought
was
that's
at
what
the
you were asking.
No, I mean, no, that was the original question to all. When her emails, private email account, the questions at the White House briefing included the question of, did you guys know about her secret email account?
Private, yes.
Private email, and they all avoided it. They all evaded it.
Yeah, but I think people knew about it.
But you're like nobody. I don't know where Greg's private server sits, right? I mean,
yeah,
nobody
that's
knows
what I
that.
was saying.
But Kimberly, you could win this.
Victor.
Let me tell you, in a court of law, that would not hold up. Am I right?
Yeah, no, I think it's nonsense. And, you know, the more that this comes out and it gets exposed, the sooner, the better. And then Biden's going to get in, and then it's just going to be.
But let me just finish up my thought, which
Go
is,
ahead.
this has nothing to do with Benghazi. That's what this was all.
Yes.
Oh, this supposed to be.
Yes.
Oh, this is going to really reveal that Hillary Clinton was
Benghazi.
This has zero.
Stop it. This is 2009. This is the very beginning of her.
This is what do you not look?
No.
Let me just say,
we haven't gotten to
well,
Benghazi
great.
yet.
Okay, so all this is about is she lost to Obama, and she felt like she was an outsider in the Obama camp, and that's why it's all about logistics. And am I invited to this meeting or not?
Of her tenure as
well, all
Secretary
right.
of State.
And then the second thing
There's
this
a
is
lot more
about
to
is
come.
Blumenthal, and I find that relationship very troubling, and I think it's troubling that she thinks she can play by her own rules. If that's what this point is, I agree.
Rest there.
Okay.
Done.
But Eric is also right. I mean, this is just every month they're supposed to release another tranche of these
3,000 a month.
emails.
This
So
is just the
what
first
he's
batch.
pointing out is that it's just the beginning.
And by the way, Blumenthal will matter when Benghazi, since he is probably the one who's responsible for coming up with pushing the video.
The puppet
And who was
strings on
getting
it.
the money from Libya, getting money from the Clinton Foundation, and advising on optics about a Libya speech.
Can
Oh my
I make one more quick point? Think
Highly
about this.
unethical.
If this is going to go on and it's chronological, these documents are going to get dumped every month.
Yes.
Boy, you're looking right into the election at some really
And still they don't care.
But you know why? Because did you see the polls today?
Yeah.
She's up plus 13 on Bush, plus 17 on Rubio, plus 19 on Walker.
But Bernie Sanders, don't count him
Is
out.
that your hope, Gregory?
I love his
One of the
chicken.
things we
Colonel
Sanders is a
real
better
quick.
shot.
One of the things we found out in the emails is that, and people do this if they have an assistant, right? Email and say, "Hey, could you go get me an iced tea or whatever?" She does this. What would you ask for? Not an iced tea, I imagine.
No, and I can't say that on air.
He'd ask for Percocet.
Oh, my
Say everything else.
That's what he
That's
asked
true.
for.